I'm Laureli Shmayo. Thanks for your interest in MeWe fairs. I just met with a new practitioner that's coming to a fair for the first time, and she asked all kinds of questions that I think lots of people want to know the answers to. So, oh gosh, what size booth to get? So I recommend that you plan out the space physically of like what the table size is like. If you get a booth that's only 5 feet, or you get a booth, yeah, that's only 5 feet wide, you can only put like a 4 foot table there, and then you only have 1 foot to squeeze by. It's really tight. Often at our fairs, if you want to have enough table space and you want a smaller booth, get a half booth and get extra access. And that way, like in Portland, it's 5 feet wide by 8 feet deep, and you can turn to the side and have the 8 foot be the front, and then there's space to walk in and out on the side. So yeah, so plan out the space of where you're going to sit, where you're going to store your stuff, where you're going to have your clients sit. Generally, there's not space in the aisle, so you have to pull your booth back in a little bit if you want them to sit on the other side of the table. And if you want them to come to the back, you have to plan space for them to come to the back and how your chairs are going to work. And are you looking at the table together, or are you facing each other? How to decorate your booth. We talked about products versus services. For services, often there's more pattern and more stuff engaging you on the booth because it's you and the experience of being there that is engaging. Whereas if it's products, you usually want a simple background so that your products stand out. If you're doing crystals and jewelry and things like that that need good light, you might want to have extra lighting. You want to think about your lighting being down on your objects and not flashing out on the sides so that it gets in the eyes of all the other vendors or your customers. Use vertical space for your products. So think about what kinds of stands and how you can prop things where you also can see them. We occasionally, unfortunately, do have some people stealing, so you really want to be able to watch and see your products. Have signage. So if you're doing services, make it really clear and obvious what it is you do, so people can just glance at your booth and they can see what you do. People generally they can feel shy and uncomfortable if they have eye contact with you and then they turn away and they say no, they're not interested. So they need to be able to just glance and see really quickly what you do. So you want to think about what words you use to describe what you do. You want to use words that are really popular and engaging. You can ask for some opinions about that. You also can just scroll through and look at our past events and see how people describe what they do. I've usually edited those to some extent, so that gives you a really good idea. Pricing. You want to have pricing available at your booth. People feel more comfortable when they imagine that you're charging the same price for everybody, and having a list makes that easier for them to see. If they're products, you can have each product labeled, or you can have a sign next to the products, and it's just categories of products. For readings and healing of various types, people charge a whole range of prices, usually between like $1 and $2.50 a minute or so. Some of the newer people start at a lower price. I stage things too so that the shorter sessions are a higher price per minute than the longer sessions as a way of incentivizing them to do longer. Usually it's cheaper than working together in private because it's at a big public setting and it's not as private and confidential. And so usually there's a smaller size session and a smaller price for people as a way of stepping in and getting an experience working with you. What are all the different things we talked about? If you're a practitioner of some sort and you like to educate people too, it's great to give a talk as a way of marketing your work. We have an intuitive panel at the beginning of the fairs where you can introduce yourself and we answer questions from the audience. Want to be of service in the moment. It's a great way to demonstrate what you do. We talked about more things about this. Got to think about whether you want electricity. You want to have a covering over your table that, as I mentioned, it can be patterned in some way that is your has your values and has kind of your theme, or something simple if it's products. Usually the fabric goes to the floor so you can use underneath the table for storage. Totally up to you though. You don't have to be all the way to the floor for my fairs. Signage, some other things about signage. Some people have signs on their fabric or hanging on the front of their table. Sometimes there are ways you can hang things from behind you, but often you don't have anything behind you. People have standing signs. Those are great. However, in the beginning, probably don't invest in something like that. You want to experiment and learn. The plastic signs that are like flat and then they kind of go up and angle backwards, where you can change the paper in them. That's great for getting started. You can change up the sheets of paper. You can print something at home. If you print something with a lot of color, I recommend doing that at the store so you don't use as much ink. The quality of that printing is generally better too. For the tall standing signs, there are all kinds of different ways people do that. And some people have signs that can have a sign on the front and the back, and that's great. I don't have that. I think that's great because often you're the only sign standing, and then people from both sides, when you're in the middle of the room, can see you. What else about booths? Well, I think that really gets to the big things. And I think that more, maybe I'll make another video. This is just a quick video, so you've got something. You can always text me 720-352-2434 to ask questions. Come early to get your booth set up. For me, the booth is the foundation for everything that I do that weekend. So get it set up, feel comfortable about it. Yeah. Have fun.